Welcome into the OBR streaming network. This is All Eyes on Cleveland. Like we always do about this time, my name is Brad Ward. The man next to me is not Casey Kinnaman. It is Jacob Roach. Follow him on Twitter at Roachism13. What is happening, Jacob?
Oh, not much, man. I told you this earlier before we hopped on here. I found my way back to sipping the optimism Kool-Aid. So,
Yeah, I like to hear that for sure. We need some optimism around this joint, so that's good. I want to hear why in a couple moments here, but first and foremost, we want to give our thoughts out to, and prayers out to, first of all, everybody involved that's struggling. There is a link. If you're feeling generous, some hat is doing something weird to my eyebrow right there. The link to donate to, if you feel generous and you want to donate to those in the hurricane, struggling with all of that, you can go to my drop down, my timeline on Twitter. The Sports Gambling Podcast has hooked up a way to do that. I'm friends with them. They come on the show and do our gambling episode. They're good guys. You can donate. Yes, donate to help out. But, our boy Casey Kinnaman is down there in not in the thick of it, but they're having their own struggles. So, thoughts out to him, Case Dog, and hope he's doing well. So, what is going on in the chat here? What is up, chat? Good to see you all filed in accordingly, and good to see your attendance. Hit like and subscribe as you file in. It takes just a second. It's free, and it helps us out tremendously. So thank you all for being here. If you're on Twitter, hop on over to youtube.com/Orange and Brown Report. What's up, Red Leader? And say hi over here in this chat if you can, and give us a like and subscribe over there. The notification bell is great, so it tells us every time we go live. There will be a link to the OBR newsletter in the description below. We've got a great show planned for you. Your guys' favorite guest of all time, Dr. Jesse Morse, is supposed to stop by, talk Chubb injury, tackle injury. I know you guys love the docs, as do I. He's always fantastic. As well as what else? We've got the origination of the turkey hole shot. You got to give credit to Tim Miller, who hunted this down somehow. You can follow him on Twitter at Bumbly Jack. He found the origination of the turkey hole shot, or at least a prior reference to the turkey hole shot before Dan Orlovsky referenced it. Should we just get right to that to start?
I think so, because you told me about this just a few minutes ago, and I really want to see it.
I feel like we should just get right to it, and see what Tim discovered here about the turkey hole shot. So let's bring that up. I won't leave everybody in suspense waiting for this, and figure out what is going on with the turkey hole shot. Where did it come from? All right, let's make sure I have the right video here. Okay, I think this is it. Here we go.
Attack 50! Attack 50!
Packers showing blitz. Stafford brought T.J. Jones closer to the line, and Abdullah ahead for another yard. Another tackle by Blake Martinez, who seems to have...
I gotta pause it because we're gonna get taken down if I don't.
Yeah.
For sure. So.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, this is like straight NFL footage here. So
a higher tackle total every week. Here's
there
Dwayne
they go. They got a
Washington, their
little
short
something on the
yardage
screen.
running back coming in. Career high last week for Martinez in their last game 2 weeks ago. 15 tackles against the New Orleans Saints.
I'm surprised Matt Stafford has run the ball 2 times in a row. Obvious pressure man to man.
The days of John
Gruden. Here it comes.
Good percentage on third down, particularly given that they've had almost 7 yards to go. Stafford. They brought extra rushers, got nowhere near him, and it's another completion on third down. This one to T.J. Jones.
Unbelievable. He throws the ball between a corner and a safety. This is 2 trap. It's a blitz. They're going to bring edge pressure from both sides, and the corner is going to roll up. And watch Stafford fit the ball in the hole between the corner and the safety. I don't advise this at home. What a throw by Matt Stafford. I call that the turkey hole. Don't ask me why, but Brad Johnson taught me that a long time ago when I was coaching Tampa. He says, hey, Coach, I think I can fit it between a corner and a safety. Look at that, the turkey.
Well, why? You don't know. You call the turkey
Brad
hole,
Johnson
but you don't know
called
why.
it. But let me show you what the turkey hole is. It's the turkey hole. It's the area when the corner rolls up, there's a hole between the safety and the corner. It's not an easy throw. You got to be able to rifle it in there, Sean. And I had a quarterback here in Green Bay who was able to do that at a high level. And now I'm watching, that's right, I'm watching one here, Matt Stafford, who makes a living putting the ball right there in the turkey hole.
Okay, still no reference of where it came from. Brad Johnson?
Yeah, Brad Johnson back in the day, apparently.
Brad Johnson likes to call it the turkey hole. Okay, thanks, Gruden.
That's
so Gruden to Orlovsky.
Yeah.
From Brad Johnson. All right, we're tracing it down. We're running down the lineage of the turkey hole shot. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Probably gonna get fined or something. Tim
probably.
A. Miller. Thank Tim Miller for sending to me that on Twitter and his research at Bumbly Jack with the research on the turkey hole shot for those of you here. So good stuff. And you gotta love Gruden. I mean, what miss him in the booth, huh? But what a degenerate he turned out to be.
I got to say that when all that stuff came out about him, I wasn't overly surprised about it.
No,
I was just disappointed.
Yeah, not surprised, disappointed. I'm not mad at you, John. I'm just disappointed in you. I'm just kidding. Gruden was great on Monday Night Football.
He was.
And that right there, like to call that the turkey hole shot. He's like, you're not sure why, though. Nope, not sure. So we still don't know why. What did you say it was? Did you say that? The flight of a turkey? You have to throw it high like a... Did you say that?
No, it wasn't me.
No. Somebody said something about...
I know what you're talking about, but that wasn't me. I'm not sure.
Maybe that's what Tim said. Hold on. Let me give Tim proper credit here if I have it. I think he said it may have had something to do with the height of the ball. But, I mean, on that one, who was that? Who threw that pass? Goff?
On that one, that was Matt Stafford.
Stafford.
Yeah.
Stafford threw that one. That was not gently thrown in there. He threw that one in there like a... Yeah, Tim said something about throwing the ball the height of a turkey. The turkeys don't really fly, do they?
No, they can glide, but they can't.
They can glide. Okay.
Yeah, like a chicken. If you throw them off a roof, though. I'm
Really?
not telling people to go throw turkeys off roofs, but
okay.
Happens.
Okay. Turkey season starts soon.
It does actually.
Okay. Do you hunt turkey?
Not anymore, but I did as a kid growing up, and probably early on in college I did. Because there's like something satisfying about having a turkey dinner that you caught, however you want to put it. I haven't in years. I just don't have the time anymore, but I used to.
Do you have to have somebody that goes out there and makes the or whatever noise?
Yeah, I mean, I've used quite a few different turkey calls. Yeah.
Okay.
You don't always have to do it, but it's easier because that's part of why turkey season is when it is because of the mating season. So they're easier to attract.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because you're basically saying like, come on and get it, big boy.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, that's
To the
exactly it.
turkey. All right. Thank you for the accurate reenactment. I know that was nowhere close to what a turkey call sounds like. I appreciate your
I think it was close.
yes. So yeah, that's no. Fox Pro works well. Greg, is that a turkey haul?
I think it's like a because I know you can use like just like with deer, you can use certain kinds of urine to attract animals.
Oh dear Lord. Okay.
It's what you asked.
All right, so let's talk football. We're getting into turkeys. We did the turkey portion of the show. There it is, the turkey hole shot. Great. Once again, Tim Miller on Twitter at BumblyJack with the research. Passing that along to me, and I thought you would enjoy that. We all need a smile these days. As we get ready for this matchup, now, why are you so optimistic, Jacob?
Well, the first thing are good. I don't know if you've had many interactions with Matthew Peterson on Twitter, a friend of mine on the Twitter from Chat Sports. He put out a stat I saw earlier, something that I think I knew but hadn't actually verified before until he saw that, and that was there's only 4 teams with a winning record in the AFC right now. You have 4 teams that are over 500 in the entire conference right now. You're sitting a game out of second place in your division. You're right there at through all the crap and the nonsense and the disappointment that we've seen through the first 4 weeks. You're not anywhere near out of it, like nowhere near out of it right now. And I talked to Casey last night, and I talked to him again this morning. For everybody that's asking, he's doing very well. He's just, as he says, living in the dark ages. But one thing he
tired of not being able to use his phone, he said.
Yeah, he gets moments with his phone. They'll be like, whatever.
Yeah.
So this was something I was texting him yesterday, and I really liked what he said, so I wanted to bring this up, and this kind of stuck with me. This was last night. He said, the truth is they don't even need the reinforcements to get wins. Because I was talking about the reinforcements that are coming back, and he said, the single biggest difference between this year's team and last season, they found ways to win these last 2 games. They haven't this year. He believes, as corny as it sounds, it's a lack of leadership and heart right now. And he talked about Nick Chubb kind of being that heart. But then when he went down last year, David Njoku was that heart. Well, you don't have David Njoku right now. You don't have that guy. You're potentially I think you get him back this week. That's just my hunch. I have no idea. I know he didn't practice today, but they said it was a planned day off. But it's still there. And that's without even talking about the reinforcements. So all of that together, that's why I woke up feeling pretty good.
Yeah, that's good. I agree. So like I wrote, and it's for I'm going to use it in things I think I know tomorrow, but very similar. I don't know if anybody read, if you read things I think I know on Monday, or what was it, Tuesday morning, Monday morning, one of those mornings, the first. I talked about the unspoken, undefined, underlying issue plaguing the Browns. Basically, along the same lines, you had a group of players last year who were galvanized around each other. They were very much playing for the man next to them. It was a selfless group. And it right now appears that this team is playing like individuals and not a team, there's something missing. There's something missing. There's something wrong or off with this team. There's an underlying thing that we aren't privy to because we're not in the locker room or around them daily to understand why last year's team was able to be so emotional and bought into everything, where this team doesn't feel bought in at all.
Yeah, I think that's fair because it's the same song and dance as last. A lot of this year has been the same song and dance as last year, with the games just going the opposite way. Like, I know they lose by multiple scores to Dallas, but those other games they could have won very easily. They had multiple opportunities to beat the Giants and multiple opportunities to beat the Raiders. And it's like, how do you shift yourself a little bit back? Who do you rally around? And I think 2-4 is the kind of guy that you need to rally around one way or another. But you just got to figure that out, man. You got to figure out what that missing piece is. And I still think Stefanski is a really good football coach. So for me,
yeah,
I still believe he can figure out what that thing is.
Yeah. I mean, my opinion of him, regardless of what happened here's the other misnomer this week. And let's hit this real quick though, because before I lose it in the chat, do you think Conklin will play this week?
I'm having a really hard time
gauging this.
Yeah, because I thought they were going to be playing a while ago, and I know Conklin then had a second injury that he was going to play a couple weeks ago.
Hamstring.
Yeah, he gets that hamstring on that Friday practice, but so I'm having a hard time reading that. If I was a betting man, and I am, I'm leaning towards he plays. But
you're leaning towards he plays?
I think Conklin plays, yeah.
Is Dunn playing this week? I don't know if Dunn is playing this week. The question about Dunn is, he's just like Chubb and Hines. He was just opened into that window. I mean, he can play. I am not banking on Dunn playing this week. To your guys' point in the chat, 2 limited participations from him. You had Conklin out on Wednesday, limited today. Same thing with Jed Wills with the knee. I just don't know. I can't gauge these tackles on where they're at with any of this. Because they've done this very similar routine where they're limited one day, they sit the next, or they're sit and then they're limited and they haven't played. You know what I mean?
They've been gaslighting us, really.
Yeah, and so it's super frustrating. I wonder if James Hudson was a planned day off today, because he was at DMP today with his shoulder.
Yeah, they didn't have him and they didn't have Njoku, but I know Njoku was a planned. I don't think Hudson practiced yesterday though.
Limited.
He was limited yesterday. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was interesting because correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think he missed any time Sunday against the Raiders, did he? He was out there the whole game.
I'm pretty sure. If it was just a couple plays, it wasn't. Pochik, ankle, DMP limited. I mean, these guys are so banged up. The injuries are it's just so devastating. And I've talked about this a million times, but the worst part is it's from last year still.
Yeah.
You're still dealing with the repercussions of last year's injuries. So MC says he picked Washington, and the OBR isn't changing your mind. Okay, cool, man. That's fine. I'm going to pick the Browns, and we talked, and here's why I'm going to pick the Browns and why I am. I think they match up defensively pretty well against this team. The part about the offense, I'm not worried about the defense. I think the defense finds its footing regardless, right?
I think so.
I really do. They have enough talent. They've even played well enough to win most of these games, right? So even without tackling well and in the run game, the numbers are atrocious. Like you know, yardage after contact and stuff. They just need to tackle better.
Wrap up.
31st, but you go to the offensive side of the ball, they're 31st in the NFL on offense. They're 29th in passing, and your 246.3 yards per game is a little pathetic. And you're going, okay, whose fault is this?
Mhm.
I'm actually asking you, whose fault is it, in your opinion? Why is the offense failed so poorly? Is it injuries? Is it offensive line? Is it the quarterback? Is it a combination of all? Is it the scheme? Because you can go even deeper. Like you've made changes in the scheme. You brought Dorsey in. You went away from what Stefanski really does, the staples of what he does, for the most part. Whose fault is it?
I think it's a culmination of a lot of things, because I know there's been a lot of like talk around kind of Dorsey and the changes that they put into this scheme, and it looking different. But one thing that really kind of I was talking to my dad a couple of days ago, and we have a friend of ours was at the Vegas game and confirmed what I have seen on the all 22 and all the guys are still open. Guys are getting open. They're running open all over the place. So in terms of the actual plays, some of the situational play calling has kind of perturbed me a little bit, kind of frustrated me at times. Like I don't like that call that they had on fourth and 3. Nobody ran a 4-yard route. I would have ran a bunch of I would have run like a fade and a bunch of 4-yard routes because it was 4th and 3. So like something.
Well, I think Cooper was supposed to, right?
He did say he changed it, yes.
But he didn't really do anything on that route, which was the more frustrating thing. What was that route? I've watched it a couple times now. He almost basically stopped on the play.
He said he didn't like the leverage, right? Like where the defensive back was. And he's like, I'm going to change it. Like, but you're right. I watched what he did run, and I'm like, I'm not sure what you thought you were accomplishing there.
It was just supposed to be an out route to the sideline. I mean, right? So you're talking about the Akins play to the corner, right?
Yeah.
Last week? Yeah.
Yep.
So Akins to the corner is supposed to pull that safety. They played it perfectly.
Yeah, they did.
Which is why I hated the timeout, and I wrote about this too. I didn't like the timeout there. There was 2 things I'll say about that I thought Stefanski mismanaged in that game. Because I'm not on him for the scheme thing.
Right.
If you have to go back, it's something else. But why didn't you kick the field goal going into the half from 58? He was good from 56. Halfway up the net earlier in the half.
I was going to say not that long prior. It wasn't that long before that kick. Like he had just made it.
Right. Drilled it right down the middle. So, and a guy that goes for it on 4th down in his own end, why right there are we getting, where's the aggressiveness there, right? Like you go for it on 4th down on your own end because you say you trust your defense, but you won't kick a field goal at the end of the half.
Yeah.
Because you don't trust your defense. You wanted to pin him deep. I get that. He was trying to avoid the double dip, right?
Yeah.
And I understand the thinking there, but you got to kick that field goal. I mean, he would have made it, I think. Even if he doesn't, it's the same reasoning you use when you go for it on 4th and 2 at your own 45 in the middle of the second quarter, right? It's the same reasoning.
He's legitimately missed one 50-yard field goal since he's been on your team. And I get it because
12 of 13.
Right. He's 12 of 13. And I understand that coming into him prior to Cleveland, he was 15 of 30 on kicks over 50 yards. I understand that he wasn't that great as a 50-yard. But that's
He's
in
been-
the past, what I've been seeing with him in Cleveland. And you said it, the chat's even saying it. He would have been good from like 65 on that 56 yarder that he kicked an hour before that, maybe, like
less
in terms of
than
real time.
probably, yeah, in real time, yeah. I mean, and you just gave him an extension. I mean, you just paid him. You paid him like he's your guy. He's your guy. You gave him the money. You gave him an extension. He is your kicker. Like, if you're gonna give him the money to be a good kicker, you're in a dome. To Greg's point in the chat,
Mhm.
you just striped one from 56. It's 2 yards deep. I mean, distance was not an issue. I didn't get that one at all. I understand. I mean, I understand his thinking, but it's more conservative than he usually is, right?
That kind of builds off the thing that I think frustrates me the most of this whole season is it's been the little things and it's been the inconsistencies. Like you talked about missed tackles. I think that's a big part of the problem for the defense. Is like 23 missed tackles in the past 2 weeks combined is unacceptable. Like you can't miss 20 tackles. And then you just completely in game will just flip some philosophies, and it just doesn't always make sense. And I know hindsight's 20/20. It's easy for us to say, why didn't you kick there? But if I go and look at Stefanski in those situations, I guarantee you he kicks it more often than not, because that's
Absolutely
his, what is it? Guess which team is 8th in yak per reception this season? Really? Are you saying that's Cleveland, Sam? That's interesting. Well, you know what? That would make sense, because there's been a lot of checkdowns and a lot of like crossing routes where guys have been getting open to run, but I wouldn't have thought it would have been that great. Oh no, it's not Cleveland. It's probably Washington. Like, if that's what we're talking about.
Oh yeah. I thought it was listening to Schwartz today talk about the tackling.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was accurate when he said he used the diving board. Did you hear him today?
I heard a little bit of it. I didn't hear this one, no.
He used the diving board analogy, like we've got to stop going off at the diving board to make tackles. Like, you make a tackle with your feet, not your body, right? You can talk about,
okay.
and he's so right. Like the missed tackles from them are all guys diving at people's feet.
Yep.
Or jumping to make a tackle early. Keep your feet, get up and wrap up, right? Like that. I think that has been one of the major things as far as the tackling goes, at least from what I've seen. I feel like the corners and stuff, they just dive at guys' ankles a lot of times, and I understand that's the way they're kind of taught now, but it's just been so bad.
Does it feel like sometimes they're trying too hard for big plays?
Yes.
Like, I want to make a tackle for loss instead of if I do the tackle right, he's going to gain 3 yards. If I try to lunge, he's going to lose a yard. When really, in all reality, I would rather you make the tackle for 3 yards instead of missing the tackle for 15.
Yeah, it's this. We talked about this last week on Things I Think I Know, the show, and I think it's true. Like, you come back with all the same personnel, you had all this hype around this defense last year. They feel like they have to live up to that number one defense billing or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think there's some of that like in their heads, and like, so like every play needs to be a huge play. There's also the burden of the offense on them, right?
Yep.
Like, add that with it too. And you also have guys trying to dive and make plays instead of just wrapping up and things like that. It's just that they need to get smacked back to the fundamentals. We've seen them do it before. You know what I mean? It's just that they've lost their way. But in all reality, like, the defense isn't why they're losing games.
No. No. I mean, I spoke about this on the Barking Browns earlier this week. It's like that defense gave Deshaun Watson and the offense 5 drives to win the last 6 drives to win the last 2 games. So you got 3 a game essentially. You had more than 1, I think, is important. Anything over 1 in the end of a game to go and win a game, especially when you're supposed to be. I hate being this guy, but when you're a $230 million quarterback and you get multiple drives at the end of games, you just got to find a way. And right now they can't find a way. Like, I still just don't think he trusts his eyes. I think the biggest issue with Watson and the offense is he doesn't trust his eyes or his arm.
He doesn't. And, it's what's super frustrating, and I'm sure it's frustrating for fans too. And it's like he's getting credit for playing a really good game on Sunday, but they scored 9 points on offense or whatever, right? Like, and they, or 10 points, whatever. I think it was 9? 10. They scored 10 points on offense.
Yeah.
And they to your point, they had 3 straight possessions at the end of the Giants game where you just had to go score to win. You had 3 straight possessions at the end of the Raiders game where you had to go score to win. 0 for 6 against 2 of the worst teams in the NFL.
Yep.
And you can't go win. I mean, that's fine. He got a great PFF grade, whatever, but clutch factor, clutch meter, that stuff matters, man. That's where the NFL games are decided. How many games are decided in the last minute of a game or 2 minutes of it's every week. You've got to be better in clutch situations, and they're just not good as an offense right now. I mean, you got that great run from Ford to get you down there, and you still couldn't finish. To your point, that was the other decision I questioned about Stefanski was I thought Ross Tucker was right. You had 3 timeouts. It was 4th and 3. You called timeout, effectively ending the game on that play.
Yeah.
Where you gave them a chance to set up, to call a play, substitute, and set up for 4th and 3, where I think you're better off calling the play, going up and running it on 4th and 3. Trust what your call is there. And then if you don't get it, they're backed up. You still have 3 timeouts. You can force a punt, get the ball back with 40 seconds, and have at least another bite at the apple. Mm-hmm. And I think that was a mismanagement of the clock.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those were the 2 things I wrote about. I'm not going to kill Stefanski for what's gone on so far this year. I thought, certainly he has to live with being a 1-3 team at this point, and that's what you are in the NFL, right? So,
yeah.
It's not like he's getting flowers thrown at him, but I don't think it's all his fault. You got a group of players that typically are better than this, Jacob, making uncharacteristic mistakes. And that's where that underlying, like, something's not right here for me is just, there's something there. And it's not, I'm not a vibes guy or an aura guy, but it's it's like something like that, right? Like, something is missing: camaraderie, team, buy-in, heart, emotion, all the stuff we saw last year that made them so likable. Their aloofness, I don't think that's a word, but their aloofness so far this year, or what looks like that at times. And, Pete's right about when he talks about, people buying too much to the body, or the
body language.
Body language. But you know, the
Elusive.
the aloofiosity, yeah, the aloofness, or whatever that they're portraying, lack of energy, um, lack of life. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, my favorite moment last year was like Emerson yelling in DTR's ear while he's crying on the sidelines after they win a game. Like, they need a moment or something to galvanize them
Yes.
together,
To rally
right?
around.
To rally together. And I think you're right that Chubb has a chance to be that. I'm
Mhm.
just Let's talk about Chubb for a minute.
Yeah.
Let's transition to that. My expectations are very, very tempered.
Mhm.
I've curbed my expectations for him just because we've seen this so many times with guys with dissimilar injuries. It's not usually the first year; it's the next one that they even resemble themselves. So now, Nick Chubb is a freak. I'm not going to say he can't do anything, because if he is the only guy we ever saw really do it right away was Adrian Peterson, right? And Nick Chubb could very well do that. And maybe his presence is just enough. How do you think they work him back in, and what are your expectations?
I'm trying to do the smart thing, which is what you're doing, and tampering the expectations and just trying to take a step back and take the emotions out of it. But I also have a hard time doing some of that because it's Nick Chubb, and
Yeah.
just the like seeing him in pads today was enough for me to just fully be back on the board. Like I'm like, well, if this and this and this and this happens, then maybe, and it's just I think when you see him, I think that he doesn't want to be out there. I do expect it. I do expect a pitch count, but I don't think
Oh, for
he
sure.
wants there to be one. Like the way he is going about this, he's like, they're like, how many practices do you need? And he's like, I just need to feel great. Like he's like, when I feel great, then I'm gonna be out there. Like whenever that is, and he's out there practicing 2 days in a row. He doesn't have a brace on that knee, and that's the
Yeah.
thing that caught my eye immediately. Is and we talked about this in the Slack channel. Mike Keefe said, I think it was Mike that I was talking to about this, and he said, "Was it you?"
Oh no, we have our other guest here. I hate to interrupt you.
Oh no. I was just gonna say, we don't know how close he was before they left him on PUP. So if he was close at the beginning of the season and they've had another 4 weeks, the ramp up period may be shorter than we know. He may be out there quicker. I expect a pitch count, but man, if he's out there looking like Nick Chubb, he's going to lobby for as many touches as he can get.
Well, the man to ask about this is here. Great transition. Dr. Jesse Morse, one of the all-time favorite guests of All Eyes on Cleveland, beloved by our chat and all of our listeners. Wonderful to have you back. I know you just got a couple of minutes tonight, Doc, but thank you for taking out some time to talk with us. Talking Nick Chubb as you're coming on here. Nick Chubb back at practice this week. What are your expectations, Doc? And how you doing?
Hey guys, how are you? I think I'm doing better than you guys are, and I'm a Patriots fan, so that kind of
Yeah,
saying a lot.
yeah, yeah. Not great.
Well, I mean, it's nice to see Nick Chubb on the practice field again. This is going as smoothly as I could have hope for. He could have been still out for another month, so the fact that he's on the practice field means he's close. He will have to be activated in the next 3 weeks. If not, he's done for the year. So we'll assume it's probably closer to the third week than this week. And realistically, this was a bad knee injury. I mean, there's not many worse that you can actually come back from, right? This is just bad. I mean, that photo is like embedded in my brain. And I'm going to take it a step further and kind of describe it because, or clarify it, because I think the context is important here. Back when he was at Georgia, he had a bad left knee injury. Bad. I'm not sure how he didn't tear his ACL. I literally can't figure that out. Just if you see the photo, you'll know what I'm talking about. So he had to have multiple ligaments reconstructed then. These are the same ligaments he tore. That just tells you that these are reconstructed, and he already tore them, many years later. But so that tells you the idea, the amount of force it took to tear these, and obviously the ACL was involved this time. So much so that it was a 2-stage revision, which is why it became so much more complicated. 2-stage revisions are pretty rare in terms of all of them. And the reason why you have to do them is because you need the knee to be relatively stable in terms of MCL, inside LCL, before you can do an ACL reconstruction. Because the problem with Chubb is his MCL was so torn that had to be repaired first, and the capsule and some of the other stuff. 6 weeks-ish later, Dr. Bruce went back in and then reconstructed his ACL. So he's a year out. I think it was the 30th, so a couple days ago, from that MCL. So only from the first surgery. Now, that gives you an idea. Traditionally, we think 15, closer to 18 months for this type of surgery, as opposed to the 9 to 12 that you traditionally hear. Adding into the fact that we knew he wasn't going to be ready for week 1 because he wasn't cutting in July or whenever. So that was kind of obvious. And the fact that he was even, the fact that it's week 5, basically, or late 4, and he's already on the field is actually good news. And we saw him squatting. He's a freak in that regard. So that doesn't tell me a whole lot. The thing that you really need the ACL for is to run and cut on a dime going that direction, stressing it. And that's why he didn't do it. And that's why, he couldn't do it then. And that's why he's finally kind of getting closer to when he can do it. Now, Chubb's never been a big reception guy. It's just has never been his game. So he's kind of always been in a committee. We've seen Hunt for years. And last year, basically Ford took over after he went down and had a great year. My suspicion is it's going to be Ford again this year, pending something weird between now and then. And maybe a little Foreman, but he's not much of a receiver either. With that being said, it's going to take some time to get that rust off. And it's going to take some time for him to trust that knee. That's the hardest part with these guys. It's a mental game the first year. This is considered the first year. The second year is usually when guys look normal, look better.
Yeah.
And rarely, even if a guy comes back week 1, we rarely project them to have a great season, regardless of talent or whatever, because it's just so hard to trust that knee, to handle the volume you need, to not have a setback or a minor little injury like Javonte Williams had last year. And Breece Hall last year kind of was an anomaly, but he got crazy volume. That was really the only reason. He had like 14 targets one game. That's the only reason why he smashed so late, and the team was garbage, so they didn't have anything better. But
yeah,
in general, Dalvin struggled. Like all of these guys struggled. That's just kind of how it is for running backs. We saw an exception, Adrian Peterson. We saw an exception, Jamal Charles. But we're talking about 2011. That's a long time ago. And gone are the days of the 300 to 400 touches, right? Last year, McCaffrey led the league. It was 330 something, somewhere around there, not including playoffs. And we saw how that played out for what it's worth. But so do I think he comes back in the next 3 weeks? Yeah, probably close to week 8. I don't know what their bye is, but and then I think he's probably going to get 8 to 12 touches, something like that early on. They've been throwing the ball like one of the top throwing teams, PROE, like way. I mean, you guys probably know the stats, but like way more than we expected.
Yes.
So maybe that comes back a little bit. Maybe that's a sign of the line. Maybe that's Watson. I don't know. And then the question becomes in the next month or so, do they start selling guys? Are they selling Amari? They're obviously not in a good position, right? I don't think they're moving Chubb up. So the question is, now what do they do? Does that change their identity a little bit? And I'm sure you guys have talked about that, or at least thought about talking about it.
Yeah. I think that as far as they're limited in guys that they would. Yeah, I mean, Amari would be one of the first pieces you sell off as soon as you deem this thing a wash. So, the one thing that is, that will delay that a little bit is the weird records in the AFC North right now. So that
Yeah.
will prolong the hope there that they can try to turn this around. The passing game has just been really, really bad. And a lot of that has been based around the injuries at tackle, Doc.
Yeah.
Conklin and Wills still not
Yeah.
back from last season is just absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, Conklin suffered a second, it's not the actual injury. He tried to come back and hurt his hamstring. But he's DMP limited this week, and I have no faith that he'll actually be out there. Wills tried to play, but didn't play. A couple weeks ago, didn't play last week. That's still the same knee, which they said he didn't do any structural damage to, but somehow re-injured it. How do you do that?
Think about how big these guys are.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a crazy stat that I tell a lot of my patients that are bigger than they should be. For every additional pound on the abdomen, it's 4 pounds on the knee.
Yeah, that's
Oh.
crazy.
These guys
What
are
about
100,
Jones,
100
who's like
plus pounds
430
more than they
right
should
now.
be, right? You see all the guys. What happened to Joe Thomas? He's friggin' tiny, right?
Yeah.
Compared to, how he was. Not tiny. He's freaking huge still. But, so think about that. If he's 100 pounds overweight, just to make it easy, that's 400 extra pounds on that knee. That's a lot of stress. And then when you squat or go down, squat, the pressure in the knee increases 7x naturally. 700%, 7x. So if you have a little meniscal tear, which is not, uncommon, think about how much stress that's increased with all that extra weight, and the way our knee bends is, this is the front. There's a kneecap right here. So there's a side view. So look at where the pressure is.
Yeah.
It's all in the back. It's not in the front. I can stick my finger in the front. There's nothing, that stupid meniscus attaches to the back. So if someone has a posterior meniscal tear, and this is when they're bending their knee. What are they doing every time they're at the line? They're bending their knee.
Pressure on it.
This is where, and then now they're pushing. They're generating force. So that's why if they have a posterior meniscal tear, it's like they got a broken wheel. They can't do anything. It's hard, and some guys, they just can't get their knee to calm down like you want it to.
DeJuan Jones is another guy that came back from a knee injury, playing right tackle and struggling right now. Into our chat commenting right now about the 10 pounds. He's like 430, Doc. He's huge.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple patients that are in the 370, pros that are 360, 380. I can't freaking fathom someone that big.
Yeah, man. And he's still struggling with that knee for obvious reasons, as you just pointed out, right?
Hearing what you just said, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I get that.
I've seen patients that needed a knee reconstruction, knee replacement, that were overweight. My
Uh-oh.
We lost you, Doc.
Oh no.
It's all right. He'll there you are.
So we get you? We good?
Yep.
Yeah, you're good. Just lost your camera for a minute.
I've seen patients in the past that needed a knee replacement. My old partner, he's a top knee and hip replacement surgeon, was like, do me a favor. Come back in 3 months, lose 30 pounds, and we'll reevaluate. I'm not doing the surgery on you now. Came back 3 months later, lost the weight, didn't have the pain anymore. The arthritis didn't get better. It's not changing.
Yeah.
So there is a significant correlation with weight and knee pain and the other issues. The problem is these guys need that weight to move people around.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a catch-22, right? Yeah. And if you think about it, if you have a bad knee and you need to exercise to get better, how the hell do you do it? It's a lot harder to do when you have a bad knee. So it's like, it's almost, the chicken or the egg. You can take meds and diet and stuff like that, but the cardio helps significantly. And it's just hard if that knee's not cooperating. So, it's tricky. And Shout out to Myles Garrett. I don't know. He's got like 12 injuries and he's
Ugh.
still balling. It's like a
Still.
freak.
Playing
Unbelievable.
playing as good as he was last year. It's insane.
Yeah, it's insane.
I
Speaking
can't
of
hear you.
defensive ends, I want.
Can you hear me?
Well, Jacob, do you go
Yeah,
ahead?
I
Do you have
can't
a
hear you guys.
question?
But
You can't. You can't.
You can't hear
You
us?
can't.
yeah, I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know.
Nothing. No sound.
I'll come back.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we lost Doc there. A little tech. Do you have a question for him, Jacob, when he comes back?
Yeah, I'm very interested about the David Njoku situation with the ankle because I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah. Can you hear us now?
Yep, yeah. I got a spam call and then I couldn't hear anything after that.
Oh, all right. Yeah, the stupid spam calls mess everything up. All right. Go ahead, Jacob.
So David Njoku had the high ankle.
Yeah.
On what that was week 1, which was
I
like
think so. Either one or two. I think it was one.
it's like almost a month ago, I guess. Like it'll be a month next week or whatever.
Yeah.
I know these things start to linger, but like this dude's tough. Like realistically, how restricted is he if that is still kind of hanging around?
So he should be back this week, which you guys will be happy about. But I've in the past, Alvin Kamara has been commented or recorded in saying that he wasn't 100% after his high ankle for 6 months. Right. Okay. So I'm going to explain why, which is not crazy. That's just a reputable guy, so you can understand that. Why is this stupid injury so stupid?
Yeah.
You see this space in between this knee, between the shin and the tibia, the fibula, which is what Pacheco broke, and the tibia. See this stupid space? There's not actually a space there. They just don't put it on the model. There is a thick ligament that runs north to south, and that attaches at the ankle joint right here. This is the joint right here. This is the toes. So what happens is that comes down, and then the ankle joint is right here. So what happens is, as you sprain that, this starts to separate. So this gets wider. That makes sense? So this gets wider. So what happens is the joint, this is that bone. This is the fibula. This is the small bone right here, this one. And what happens is that ankle joint can't handle any wiggle room. So as it starts to stretch, it hurts to put your foot down. But eventually it calms down. But what happens is the ligament that's holding everything tight together is either partially torn or pretty beat up. So when you plant your foot and rotate, meaning if you're trying to turn to the right or to the left, that's when it hurts again. So you'll see guys running straight and they're okay. When they try to cut or pivot, that's when they can't do it because this is a rotational injury. This is more shin than ankle, where people think this is the lateral or common, roll your ankle. Women, have a high heel, they roll their ankle. This is super common. This is annoying, but you come back. These are super rare. This is medial ankle. This is inside ankle. This stupid ligament right here is really strong. So if you injure this is what happened to Michael Thomas. If you injure this, it's not pretty. It's really, really bad. And which is that one's so strong, that's why you always roll out laterally. But the problem is this high ankle is so annoying, and it really only happens in American football because you pretty much have to do this.
Yeah.
Which means someone's tackling you from above or behind, or however you want to do it, or grabbing you and basically landing on you, hip drop, basically. And that when that happens, that starts to split that syndesmotic ligament, we call it. And a grade 1, 3-4 weeks, great, which is really long for a sprain. A grade 2 is like 6 to 8 weeks. These things are awful. I mean, you're in crutches or a boot, like a walker for 2 weeks. They can't put your foot in the ground because when you put your foot in the ground, the bones move and the joint gets pinched and you're writhing. You can't even fathom running. Never mind even walking. I mean, it's vicious. The grade 3s need a screw and basically like almost like a Ziploc, but it's a medical grade. Basically Ziploc it together. Tua had one on each side. Jalen Hurts had one on one side when they're all at Alabama. Cooper Kupp had one a couple years ago. Jonathan Taylor had one 2 years ago. All this surgery. Adam Thielen had one last year. So like they're not rare, but do they prevent you from getting a re-injury? No, Jonathan Taylor this week, but they usually prevent you from having a bad one because there's hardware in there. The problem is that's like a 2-month journey, 2.5-month journey come back. Like you just don't have that surgery unless it's bad. And maybe in the off season, okay, maybe that's a separate discussion. But if you're trying to come back, unless it's like a bad 2 or early, like 3, basically full thickness tear, you have to have it. They don't have a choice. But yeah, that's the problem with high ankles in general, and especially if it's an explosive player. If you're just trying to block, okay, fine. But if you're trying to cut and run routes and get open, you need to have that agility, and that's why it takes time to come back. Anybody can run a straight line, but that you're not going to do that on the field. You only be limited to a couple plays. So and that's the unfortunate part. So the good news is I think he'll be back this week. He'll probably be at 60%, and that's okay. As long as he doesn't re-injure it or suffer a new injury, in a couple weeks he'll be 90% or so. You won't really notice a difference.
Okay. All right. Yeah, just having him out on the field will help a little bit. Blocking wise, major. He will help the offensive line significantly. It'd be nice to get these guys back on the offensive line. I have one more question. I know you got to go, Doc. Alex Wright, season-ending injury, triceps. They just keep piling up. And to that point, we have a question from our chat here, and I know Jackson, he's a good. And we've talked about before about this, but Jesse or Doc, is there such things as terrible medical and training staffs among sports teams, or are fans just overreacting to the number of injuries on a team such as the Browns? Like the injuries since last year and this year are just, they're just snake bitten. It just keeps piling
the
up.
Biggest injury list I've ever seen every week.
So I see my fair share of pros. I'm not team affiliated, so I don't have a door to the office, but and I've asked them this in terms of like, hey, are medical staffs better than others? And I've had several players that have played on multiple teams, so they have good kind of comparisons. Without a question, there is a significant difference between different teams. I could say, just because I remember one conversation, that your cross-state rivals have one of the worst, from what I've been told.
Yeah.
The Bengals. And it was just like their resources were god awful. Their facilities were just ghetto, quote unquote. I haven't spoken with anyone about Cleveland that comes to mind. So I can't speak to that. I've heard, for what it's worth, Miami has one of the best. I happen to live in Miami, but I don't have any affiliation with them. This is what players told me. So in general, like, okay, that's, but I think it has to do with the mindset of the coaching staff, of the owner, of the GM. And what I've seen and talked to players about, Ross, the owner of the Dolphins, doesn't care really about spending. Like he'll spend whatever it takes. I've heard the opposite from some other organizations, which is kind of ironic because these guys are worth a lot of money and this is a $1 billion industry. But my mindset, and I'll give you one other layer. My mentor is the team doc for the Bucks, or one of the team docs. So I know, I don't talk to him about this stuff because it's relatively private. But in general, there's a level that these guys are willing to do. And remember, most of the time, all the time, these team docs, there's usually 2 surgeons and 2 non-surgicals. I'm what they consider non-surgical. They have full clinic schedules that week, every week. They're not team docs for the team. They're docs who happen to work with the team. So why does that make sense? Why is that crazy? You have 2 4-hour time blocks during the week for players. How many players are on that roster?
That's ridiculous.
Well, there's
50, 60, 70, depending on, who you're
With
counting.
Practice
squad, yeah.
squad, you're talking 70,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the PTs and the athletic trainers and the staff, they're doing most of the work because there's no way the docs can do that. The other thing is most of the teams at most will use PRP.
Yeah.
Take blood out, spin it down, put it back in. This is my specialty, so my subspecialty, what I do literally every day. If you want to give me a pain or a potency scale of 0 to 10, where stem cells are about a 9 or a 10, PRP is a 3. Okay? PRP on average costs about $500 to $1,000.
Yeah.
Okay? The problem with PRP works great for mild to maybe a little bit moderate injuries. It's not going to fix anything significant, even if you do it 5 times. It's really inflammatory. It's like throwing gasoline on a fire.
Oh,
It hurts like hell. And if anybody's ever had PRP, good PRP, you'll know what I'm talking about. I've had patients pass out on me because it can be that inflammatory. I've had other patients that were sleeping. So it depends on the person. But in general, most NFL pros do not want PRP. This is where I'm coming back. Because it's too inflammatory. They can't play in 4, 5, 6 days. It hurts too much. That's when you start adding in or replacing it with some of the stuff that's not inflammatory. And that's the stuff that's expensive and they don't want to talk about. And that's the stuff that that will get guys back in a week, 2 weeks, when it should have taken 6 weeks or whatever. And I can speak specifics here. I won't give you names, but you'll have an idea. One of your players a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago, 3 years ago, came in. I'll leave after this. We had a pretty much a full thickness tear oblique off his rib, basically the muscle tore off his rib. So a grade 1 is pretty beat up. A grade 2 is a partial tear. A grade 3, the freaking thing's not connected. So this was like a grade 2, 3, like bad. They did PRP with the staff, with the Browns staff. 2 days later, he's like, didn't do nothing. Not worth it. Did nothing. So he calls out my partner. He was at our Tennessee office at that time. He's like, Doc, I got this bad oblique. I need to get back. They only gave me PRP. Did nothing. I need the good stuff, basically. Flew out that day. Hit him with the craziest stuff that we have that's not inflammatory that will allow him to play sooner. He played that Sunday.
With it pretty much detached.
It was better than it was, but over the next couple of weeks, it got better. But
yeah.
That gives you an idea. Like, he played that Sunday. That was Tuesday.
Oh.
It's insane. It's crazy because you think, the amount of money that the Haslams have spent on the roster, they've spent like crazy. So you would think they would spend like crazy here too. So,
I'll leave you with this comment because I use this analogy a lot and it makes sense. The NFL and the players and the owners are like, the players are like pawns in a very expensive game of chess.
Yeah.
They're movable, they're replaceable, they're pretty much irrelevant. You have a couple kings and a couple important pieces, right? That are hard to replace. Your Mahomes, like, you're hard to replace guys. But most of the time, they're just, just got next one up. They don't think about a player's health 5 years down the road.
Right. Yeah.
They're probably going to be gone off the roster, maybe out of the NFL.
Yeah.
The player needs to think about that, but the medical staff, not the medical staff, it's the owners and the GM, in my opinion, that's their mindset. I need you to play on Sunday. I need you to suit up for the rest of the year to help me win. I don't really care about your health, 2, 3, 4 years down the road, whatever it is. In my mind, in my opinion, that's part of the way they think. Because if not, they'd be spending, 20, 30K a week on each player.
Yeah.
And that's what they cost. I mean, that's, I write the bills. Like, I know what they cost. Unfortunately, that's what it takes. Right? So I get it. I get it, but it's just unfortunate. It really is. Maybe they would maybe it's like, hey, I make $5 million a year or 10. At this point, it's freaking just a number. $1 million of that is allocated to treatment for the year.
Yep.
For under the team kind of bracket or whatever, something like that. I think that would be logical.
Yeah.
Because why do you think that all the players have a guy like me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because the team aren't willing to do that. Wouldn't you rather keep it in-house if you could? It makes
Absolutely.
sense. You know, the guys have 1 day off a week. You know how hard it is for them to travel there and travel back in 1 day?
Yeah.
Tough. It's real tough.
It's crazy. It's crazy that it's not that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Doc, amazing information as usual. I know you got to run. You're the best. Make sure you go to, I have it all right here, Injury Experts and Injury Experts with a Z.com. Check out everything Dr. Jesse Morse is doing. You're the best, man, for making time for us tonight. We appreciate you so much, chat.
You're welcome.
Thank
Take care,
you.
guys.
I love you. All right.
Good
Thanks,
luck.
Doc. All right. Dr. Jesse Morse, amazing as usual. Yeah, I mean, here's the
pressure
thing.
on their knees, man.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Doc's been on the show quite a few times, and he's gotten in the weeds with us before about some of the shots that they give, and he's, he's talked a lot. One of the more interesting conversations we've had with him. I don't know if you've seen him or not, Jacob, but
I've seen a couple,
yeah, he talks about there's kind of like the old guard in a lot of these locker rooms, like where they aren't at the cutting edge of medicine, and guys have to go outside the building to get the cutting edge medicine stuff. And I just can't imagine that with the Haslams that they're sparing any expense on their players' health. I can't imagine they are.
Well, the thing that gets me, and I had talked to some people about this on Twitter, was they made this massive change this summer. They hired a very well-respected doctor of some sorts to head up their I don't know, head up the training staff, whatever it was. And then nothing really seemed to change, which makes me think to what he just said. Well, yeah, they hired a doctor that they probably see 8 hours a week, and all the everything below him, the people they're actually seeing every day is probably the same people.
I just don't know that, to Jackson's question, I just don't know that like injuries piling up on teams like this is necessarily an indication of the kind of care they're getting. I think that it's probably like luck more than anything, or you could even go back to, I would even be more willing to blame like the kind of off season they had as a team, right? Where it felt very disjointed because you were dealing with all these injuries from last year. And what Stefanski in his time here has typically done, and along with the changes in the CBA, is it's a slow rollout. It's a ramp up, but it was really hard for the Browns, it felt like, to get ramped up this year because of all the injuries, right? We had Zach Jackson on, and he was like, they've had like 3 days of practice with everybody available. Like, that's insane. So, like, some of that and guys having to sit, come back can take you into a season where the team needs you and you're maybe not fully ready physically yet. And I wonder about that sometimes more than anything. But, I can't imagine that they are skimping on the money in the Browns staff. And I know that their doctors, like Dr. Voos, the one that does all the surgeries. Now, I noticed that Dr. Daniel Cooper did right surgery, but Voos does most of them, and I know that he is highly, highly regarded. So
it's just like, I'm with you, because they're fishing out all this money, and if it's a matter of money to get them back sooner or to have less injuries, I don't think that would be the problem. I'm with you.
No, they would do it in a second. Yeah.
I mean, they're spending what, like $300 million on the offense or whatever. Like, they're not going to spend a bunch of money to try to keep those heavy. The thing about it is, it comes up all the time. Like, what should they be doing? I'm like, I don't think there is. Like, I'm not sure there is anything else they could be doing. If there is, then please do it. But I'm just not sure there is.
it's guys getting rolled up on. It's luck. I mean, it's like injury luck is a real thing. Like it's a metric that
Yeah.
you can check, like injury luck, and the teams that can get healthy or be healthiest in December and playing good football in December are the teams that have the best chance to make a run. And I mean, we saw this happen to the Ravens
Yeah.
like 3 years ago. They were they had more injuries than even the Browns the past 2 years. Like they had nothing. Like they couldn't even. Every running back they brought up got hurt. Remember that year?
Oh
Like
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they were just decimated with injuries. So, um, I
And
don't
they
know.
had like
Interesting
30
stuff
guys
from
on
the
IR.
yeah, yeah. Interesting stuff from the doc as usual. There. Um, let me ask you this:
Mhm.
going into this game, you got McLaurin, you got Noah Brown. Um, we're hoping to get some of the offensive line back. Their offensive line has only been credited with 1 sack this year. The other 9 have been put on Daniels. Daniels has been amazing. Their offense has scored 30.2 points per game. They have not scored less than 20 points in a game. The Browns have not scored more than 20 points in a game. So the reason I am optimistic is because I think they can match up well on the outside, and that they play and practice for Lamar Jackson every year.
Yeah.
It's a very similar thing, right? Like it's like college teams getting ready for Army or Navy. You only have to do it, once on your schedule, right? But this is very similar to what you would do against Lamar. So he's feeling it right now, but he is a rookie. I think that if you were ever going to have Schwartz dial up a beauty of a game plan, you need it this week to confuse him, give him stuff he hasn't seen before, have him not knowing where it's coming from, and really kind of just try to disrupt him and make him uncomfortable because he's a rookie. He will make mistakes. He will throw you the ball. And when this defense is firing on all cylinders, they can be hugely impactful. So I do think they have a chance there. McLaurin has been really good for them, but I do think Denzel is the matchup there. And I think Denzel can do a good job on him. Now, the question still goes back to the offense. What do you expect this offense to make? Like, what has to change? So here's the most frustrating thing for me. You had Deshaun play well last week, right? By a lot of the metrics. I'm going to separate play clutch with play well because he didn't play
Yeah.
clutch, but he played well
Yeah.
or better. He was the second highest PFF rating in the NFL to Lamar. And they still were terrible on offense. So at that point, you have some hard questions to ask if you can't put it on the quarterback anymore. So where are you at with this, Jacob? What does this when does this offense make the leap? What has to happen? If it's not the quarterback play, what has to happen?
That's the biggest thing, because when it was the quarterback play, it was very easy to be like, yeah, it wasn't always just the quarterback, but it was easy to say, well, if the quarterback
That's
figures
the
it
big
out,
reason why.
Yeah, exactly. And it'll take such a leap forward that a lot of things will get figured out if he figures it out. I think I've said this on Twitter this week. I said it a little bit earlier about the defense with the missed tackles. I think it's the little things. It's the drops. I mean, you look at the drop that turns into an interception. You talk about not kicking the 58-yarder earlier in the game. Amari doesn't drop that. They at least get a field goal in that situation. I believe he was at like the 35, 37-yard line, somewhere around there. So he pretty much put them into field goal range when he dropped what became an interception. I'm actually kind of surprised more people aren't talking about this, but that Nick Harris botched snap on first down, which led to the 4th and 3. it made it 2nd and 16. So you went from 10 yards on 4 plays to 16 yards on 3 plays that you had to do. And so things like that, they cleaned up some of the penalties, but there's still been some situational stuff especially in the other games. I just think it's these like little things. They're not like, I look at this defense that they're playing in Washington, and it's not very good.
It's not good.
They have 0 interceptions. They've not picked off a quarterback once. I do the weekly fantasy article for the OBR. I published it this morning. They've given up the most fantasy points to wide receivers in the entire NFL. That secondary cannot cover.
Yeah,
but the Browns can't handle simple stunts and twists up front from the defensive line. And if you're telling me that a very, very smart defensive mind like Dan Quinn doesn't see that on tape, then I think you need to reevaluate yourself, because he definitely sees that on tape. And it's those little things. It's situations where they're not properly passing off players on the offensive line, and guys are just going straight up unblocked. And so, like, yeah, the offensive line's struggling and Deshaun's holding on to the ball, but some of those struggles are the fact that they're not doing the very basics, doing the little things of their jobs. And like, if Deshaun's holding onto the ball for a while, and a free runner is coming at him, and that's happening a lot, like, what do you think's going to happen? So it's like, This is a very smart. You've got to clean up the little things, and if you can just do your job, don't drop the football. If you can just make sure that if there's a guy coming at your quarterback, that somebody touches him, at least touch him. Some of these little things and some of these situational, that bad snap, like some of those things, if you can clean those things up, I think that's how you get on track. And we've said it for 3 weeks. This is the defense to get on track with. They took another step. I think they're starting to come together as a unit a little bit, as they are starting to actually have reps together in terms of Deshaun and his pass catchers. Because the thing with Jerry Jeudy is there. That's awesome. Jerry Judy's playing great. They just got to find some ways to incorporate the other guys. But I think all around this team has just got to clean up the little things.
Yeah, the inability to handle the twists and stunts in the games that you're going to see on a weekly basis from every team in the NFL is just shocking, because it's the same mistakes over and over. And that's the most frustrating thing, is like, ask any coach in sports, it's like, it's fine, make a mistake, but when we correct it, that's it. It can't continue to happen over and over. And the communication and the inability to pass off blockers and function as an offensive line up there is just infuriating at this point. So that has to be fixed moving forward to a certain extent, right? Like,
it's just got to be better.
Yeah. And, I just, getting Njoku back would help a lot. I'm at a point, I'm weary a little bit of like what they're doing offensively. I know there's open receivers, and that's not the issue. I'm just weary of the whole, like, everything they did this offseason to go to this Dorsey model of like, and you can't, me and Pete talk about this, like, Deshaun can't complain about it. He had agency in this. Like, he had say. Yep. He had a ton of say in what they're doing offensively right now. And I'm just like, I would love to see Stefanski's offense with Jameis Winston.
Brother, you're preaching to the choir on that one, man. I wonder, in case he's asked this question, I know he's asked me this question. I'm sure he's posed this question to you as well. At what point does this continue to look disjointed? And Stefanski says, all right, screw this. I'm going back to what I know. And they're trying to mess with you in the chat. I saw the comment. You're not fooling anybody. I'm just messing with it. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I think that we have seen some progress, and that gives me hope. But if they don't figure this out soon, you've got to go to what you know works. You don't know that this offense works. I know Kevin Stefanski's offense works.
I know. I think this one can work. It's just, I mean, I just don't know. I don't know what. I
They're
don't know what Deshaun. Like, yes, he had a good game this week. It's just like I don't know if what offense he can run at this point and be like prolific. Like, great, he got all these scores. Once again, they scored 10 points. Like, what? I don't know what. Yes, drops. I get it, but I mean, do those drops account for the 21 more points you should be averaging a game? I mean, unlikely. I don't know. Maybe the penalty help was brutal, but I don't know. I just am. I'm frustrated. I just want to see this offense look. If they can make this one work, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just, I guess I'm weary of what. Like, it doesn't feel close to me, Jacob.
Yeah, I get it.
You know what I mean? Like, if it felt close to like them exploding onto the scene for 28 points this week, I'd be like, yeah, it doesn't feel close.
Yeah,
Or does it to you?
I just think it's close to being competent. I don't know that I think it's close to being explosive. I don't know that it's close to scoring 35 or 40 points. And I don't know if it's close to being a top. I think it's close to being good enough with this defense to win games. But is that enough?
Yeah, I don't know. Falcons touchdown. Who scored it? Red leader.
Oh, that's important. Yeah. So I'm like checking my parlays. I'm like, who's that?
Bijan, please.
Hold on. Oh, God.
Bijan or London?
It was Drake London.
Drake London, 18 yards. We'll take it.
Yeah,
We'll take it. All right. We are going to break out, says Chris. Yeah, I mean, I hope so, brother. I really do. I honestly think the best thing they could do to break out would be get Njoku back and get some of the offensive line reinforcements back. You just have to find a way to be better up front. It's been so bad, and they're making the same mistakes over and over. Zach Sinner, I think, can be fine.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a good player for us. I do. He has the right mental approach and all that stuff, so I think he'll be fine.
I think they've got to find cheap yardage, easy yardage, and that's exactly what David can do. That's why I think that's the spark plug that could put you.
Indy helps in pass protection so much as well.
Yeah.
I think he can help there as well. So, like, this is a winnable game. Like, I know they've scored a lot of points and they're hot, but to me on paper, it looks like a winnable game because their defense is so suspect. Their secondary is so suspect. It does lend you to the ability of, potentially having a good passing game, be, steady with the run. Brian Robinson didn't practice today.
For the second straight day. So they might be without
him. They do have Austin Eckler, but I am not worried. Once again, ultimately in the long run, I'm not worried about this defense, and I think that they can show up big in big spots. I am yet to see the offense be really clutch, and I guess that's the next step for me. Even if you just score 24 points and be clutch enough to make that last drive to win the game would be a step in the right direction. The main thing is you just got to get a win. You've got to find a way to get a win this week. You have to do it. And I think they realize that they're there. So it's an interesting matchup for sure. It will be a fun game, I think, to watch just because Jaden Daniels is fun to watch. And I think that the Browns can disrupt him. So,
yeah. I like it. I like I'm gonna write up my round table after this show, so I'm not 100% where I'm going on the prediction yet, but I am leaning to just the situation. I don't know, man. Like, you got a rookie, you got an offensive line that's okay. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think again, you have an opportunity that you've had for the last 3 weeks, really, and you've only taken advantage of it once.
Yeah.
You've got some matchups you should be able to win if you can just do your job. I don't even need people to be above their pay grade. I need them to be at their pay grade. I need you to be at least league average. And I think you could, like, if this offensive line could be average, I think we would be in a good spot.
Yeah. Yeah. And Amari Cooper could live up to the $25 million he's making. That'd be good.
Well, I mean, he's one holding call from having a great game.
I guess.
It was an 82-yard touchdown. I mean,
yeah, still really bad drop.
It was so bad, man. It was so bad.
I don't think I've ever seen a worse one. I mean, he might as well have caught it and ran over and handed it to the other team.
Yeah. I mean, it was that might have been Deshaun's best throw as a Brown. He just fits it right into. There's 3 guys around him, but he didn't even put it in harm's way. He just fits it right into him, and then it just boop. I saw it pop up, and I just started screaming the F word. I knew it was coming.
And then the route on 4th and 3.
Yeah,
very suspect. I don't even know what that was really. On the biggest play of the game. Turkey hold it. All right, let's get out of here tonight, guys. Good stuff. Wait for hanging out with us here at All Eyes on Cleveland. Big thanks to Jacob Roach at Roachism13 on Twitter. Make sure you follow, like. I am doing a radio spot at 10:07 tonight on 1100 with who is it with? Sorry.
Hey.
Dennis Maniloff
Okay.
on 1100 if you're listening to the radio and you feel like tuning in. 10:07. But other than that, we'll be back for Things I Think I Know tomorrow night. I think it's just me and Quincy tomorrow night. So I know Abby is celebrating a birthday. So, but yeah, you guys take care out there. Keep your thoughts with Casey and everybody else involved in the hurricane and all that stuff, and help where you can. I know people appreciate it right now, but go Browns. I think they can get this one. I really do. It's a sneaky one. They're riding high. They're primed to get knocked off. If you were like, if you approach this as strictly handicapping this game, the number's small.
Yeah.
The public money is on Washington.
Yep.
So you would probably be like, give me the points and the Browns. So I'm just saying, when a team gets too high and another team's really low in the NFL, weird things happen a lot like that. So just keep that in mind. Keep the faith. Go Browns, baby. They can turn it around. I know it. Roachism knows it. Keep it locked at the OBR. The newsletter link will be below. Hit like and hit subscribe on your way out. Have a fantastic night. For Jacob, my name is Brad. This has been another edition of All Eyes on Cleveland. Keep it locked at the OBR. We are out.